Hey, let's talk about dot plots, what they are, and why we would use them. Here's some data for you. I've got a learner driver has every week he's written down how many hours a week he got to drive, and he's written them down in this table. So our task is in fact to display this data as a dot plot. What is that? All right, well, let's have a look. It's going to look like a graph. You might remember a bar chart, okay, a column graph, where we've got an L shape, we've got a y-axis going up and an x-axis going along. Now, across the bottom, I've put the range of scores. So my lowest score in his data is 1. The highest score is 6. In other words, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, etc. And up the left-hand column, I've just put some numbers to represent the frequency or the number of times that score occurs. And I'm labeling the one across the bottom as my hours. Okay, so I've looked at the data and I've said, what's the smallest? It's 1. And what's the biggest? 6. So across the bottom, I'm going to have to make sure those scores are covered off. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to see for 1 hour, how many times did that happen? How many weeks did he only get 1 hour's driving in? And I can see, looking at my data here, there are 4 occasions. Guess what that means? 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, lining up with the 4 here. So I've now got 4 dots representing the fact that there were 4 weeks that he got 1 hour's driving in. Let's do the same thing now for looking at 2. How many weeks did he get to drive for 2 hours? And I can see that there are 7 occasions that he got 2 hours driving in. So my dot plot will have 7 dots, right up here, lining up with the 7. I hope you can see the pattern forming now, what we're doing. I'm now going to look for how many weeks did he get 3 hours in. Well, there were 3. 1, 2, 3. So my dot plot's going to have the 3 dots. Get it? How many times did he get 4 hours in? There were only 2 of those. I can see here and here. 5 hours. There was only 2 of those, here and here. And finally, 6 hours. There were only 2 of those. Guess what? You've done it. You've created a dot plot. All right, and this dot plot is a visual representation of the numerical data. And we do that because it's easier to pick out a pattern in a visual representation than it is just to look at a blob of numbers and try and get some idea. So I couldn't necessarily easily look at that table to start with and tell you the most common score is 2 hours. So most of the time, most commonly he's going to get 2 hours a week driving in. But when I look at the dot plot, it's very easy for me to see that 2 hours a week was the highest frequency and the one that happens the most. Last thing I might want to do is just check that I haven't missed any. So I'm going to do a quick count. If I went through and counted up all of these dots, I can see that there's 20 dots, which is nice because I know I started with 20 weeks worth of data or 20 scores. And that way I can just a little bit of a check that I haven't missed anything. That, folks, is a dot plot.